Hello, friends. My name is Dr. Salucen Joseph. I'm the host for Haiti Then and Now and the Center for Faith, Reason, and Dialogue. Those who are familiar with the content of Haiti Then Now know we have an important, a celebrated series in which we interview Haitian writers or Haitianist writers and authors. But today we're going to do something different than we have done before. Um, we're going to spend this time together to reflect on the work of Haiti's most important writer. I would argue Haiti's most celebrated writer who just passed 2 days ago. I'm referring to Frankétienne, Frankétienne. So in this conversation, I want to spend some time providing a short bio about his life and his major works. We provide a summary of his major works, and then I will comment and make some analysis of about works on Frankétienne, people who have written about his oeuvre, I should say. Then, yeah, this is how we want to remember uh, Frankétienne as a giant literary figure. Maybe literary figure does not do justice to the multiple hats he has worn for many years. So I'm going to share with you my notes, what I have written about Franck Etienne, and I am not an expert on Franck Etienne. Just a word of preface. Also, I'm a specialist in Haitian literature, but many people me as a religious scholar. But my first PhD, is in fact in literary studies, in which I I focused on Caribbean literature and African American literature, which of course includes Haitian literature. But I do want to spend sometimes, having a conversation with you about this important wider in Haiti's literary canon. I want to read a short paragraph from um, from a text. Somebody sent me that text maybe back in 2012, when I just finished my PhD uh, at UT Dallas. I don't remember the name of the author, but uh, but I just copied the text, but it's not from me. Um, the paragraph begins in this manner. From the moment of its independence in 1804, Haiti was a literary nation. This is the emphasis. Haiti was a literary nation, producing primarily poetry and plays, although by far the most common subject of Haitian writers of the 19th century was the struggle for liberation from the colonial power. The tiny Francophone elite that produced the literature did so in French and was entirely beholden to the various literary currents and schools that characterized metropolitan French literature of that century. So that includes Romanticism, the Parnassian, and then symbolism. So I wanted to share this opening paragraph, or opening words with you to explore the oeuvre of Franck Etienne. Um, okay, so who was Franck Etienne? Who was he? Franck, as I mentioned before, Franck Etienne was a writer who who had worn many, many hats. He was a poet, he was a musician, a painter, a playwright, politician, screenwriter, singer, novelist, teacher. In fact, he's the founder of Collège Frankétienne. But his real name is Jean-Pierre Basilique Dantor Frankétienne. And of course, he's famously known as Frankétienne. And as you see, Dantor uh, is a religious name, the name of a Haitian roi, as Julie Dantor. This reflects perhaps his mother's religious sensibility. I did not say his parents, because Frank Etienne white father abandoned him since he was about 5 years old. Frank Etienne was born uh, on April 12, 1936, so about 2 years after the American occupation ended in Haiti in 1934. So he is not a child of the American occupation, but in some of his works, he would reflect on the dilemma of the American occupation in Haiti. Also, in the same manner of thought, he would uh, reflect on the politics of the Duvalier regime. So he was born in Ravine Sèche. Ravine Sèche it's a village in the commune of Saint Mark, the Artibonite department. And as I mentioned before, he died two days ago on February 20th at his residence in Delmat 31. Frank Etienne was Frank Etienne was 89 years old. 89 years old when he died. Um, well, he was going to turn 89. Let me put it this way, because since he was born in April 12, we are in February. So he was going to turn 89 years old. So he left behind uh, an enduring or monumental legacy, not only for the literary community in Haiti, but for literary communities beyond Haiti, because not only Frank Etienne was able to have a tremendous impact on Haitian literary writers, intellectuals, or radicals, or painters, playwrights, you name it. But Frank Etienne's reputation is also celebrated beyond Haiti, in the Caribbean, and the Francophone world, especially in France. He was well known. However, Francotienne was raised in Port-au-Prince, Bel Air neighborhood by his mother. His mother worked as a street vendor, and in several interviews by Frank Etienne, he said that he met his father one time when he was 5 years old. His mommy took him to see his father, and then that was the only time he met his father. He has never seen his father again. And according to Frank Etienne, his father was a wealthy white American industrialist who abandoned his family. I believe he had four children, if I remember correctly. Three with his wife, American wife, and his father actually died in Haiti, but he came to Haiti in the 1920s, I believe, during uh, the American occupation in Haiti. Then he would stay in Haiti for a long time, eventually died in Haiti. He was well known in Haiti because of his influence as a merchant, as a very wealthy white American merchant. But anyway, Frankétienne was, I would argue, one of the most important Haitian writers, uh, modern or contemporary writer, perhaps the most prolific Haitian writer in the French language. In his collective work, whether we're talking about novels, plays, uh, his painting, or his music, his poetry, uh, I think one of his ultimate goals was to reshape Haitian literary landscape. Okay. And again, he did that uh, with care, with passion, and he did that intentionally to leave a legacy behind for uh, for those who have inspiration to follow his footsteps, even those who have no interest and Frankétienne, because Frankétienne was not only an engaging writer, but he was also um, interested in Haiti's uh, political landscape, which is manifest in his major work, uh, Des Affaires, which I'm going to spend some time talking about it, providing some commentary on this important work. Now, Frank Etienne, uh, he had a global recognition, okay? Actually, he contributed, okay, uh, to give the Creole language a global recognition. Well, why is that? Well, in 1975, Frankétienne published his groundbreaking novel, Des Affaires, in Creole, and it actually was the first modern work written entirely and in the language of the Haitian people. This is the English translation, and as you see here, the cover art, it's called Les Zombies. It's by Frank Etienne himself, and this painting was produced in 2000. Okay. Um, so, and again, as I mentioned before, I'm going to spend some time talking about this book uh, because it's one of the major literary innovation in Haitian literature. So for many people, Frank Etienne is the father of Haitian letters. In fact, we should call Frank Etienne as the dean of Haitian letters because of his major achievements, his major impact, his extraordinary influence on Haiti's literary and artistic uh, productions. Again, Frank Etienne was one of the most influential voices in Caribbean literature, and he produced a body of work that spent more than 60 years. And this body of work includes, as I mentioned before, novels, poetry, theater, and visual art. Some critics will view Francotienne widely as a multidisciplinary creator. So He he crosses his work engages different disciplines, bringing different disciplines and conversation. Some critics also call Frankétienne literary innovator, a cultural icon. In fact, on the very first page of the English translation by the literary scholar and translator Ashley Shaw writes, uh, with his large corpus of avant-garde literary creations in both French and Creole, the Dean of Haitian Letters has been praised not merely as l'écrivain le plus novateur d'Haïti, Haiti's most innovative writer, but also as l'écrivain le plus novateur du monde, the most innovative writer in the world. And un de ces géants qui ont marqué et marqueront la littérature américaine. One of those giants that have marked and will continue to mark the literatures of the Americas. Uh, Again, this translation was produced in 2018. So we're talking about 7 years ago. So you can see how Aslin's words, okay, well, Aslin actually was quoting two individuals, one of which who called Frankétienne Haiti's most uh, innovative writer, and another who calls Frankétienne the most innovative writer in the world. So that explains not only Frankétienne, uh, tremendous, significant literary impact in Haiti and the Caribbean, but also his enduring literary impact in the world. Well, Frank-Étienne in his oeuvre, in his collective work, he blends language, politics, cultural traditions, and aesthetics in ways that define convention, that in a way that go beyond the traditional. His style, what Asner calls frenetic mix of surrealism and social critique have defined spiritualism, okay, uh, which we're gonna spend some time talking about it. So spiritualism was a literary movement. Frank Etienne helped uh, to establish um, back in the 1960s. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. But as an overview, this literary movement embraces chaos as a means of artistic and political expression. So not only Frank Etienne is known as Haiti's most innovative writer, but he also known as Haiti, one of Haiti's leading writers and playwrights. Uh, because Frankétienne wrote both in French and Haitian Creole, and this is why, because of what he was able to do with the Creole language in terms of style, in terms uh, uh, of the expression that he employs. I remember when Aslan Charles, who was also a good friend of mine, a mentor to me when I was doing my PhD several years ago. He still remains a mentor to me. He used to provide updates of his progress in translating this fee. And Aslan used to say that he would call his grandparents in Haiti, or people who who was born a long time ago, okay, who were familiar with some of the linguistic expression in terms of slangs than Frankétienne employs in his 1975 book, Des Affaires. So this is why Frankétienne is not only known just as an innovator in the French language, but also a giant and Haitian literature and the Creole expression. Franck-Etienne, as a painter, he is known for his colorful and abstract works. In fact, in most of his painting, he likes to highlight the colors blue and red, bleu et rouge, actually Haiti's national flag colors. And I don't think that maybe there's a connection there, but I do not know. In 1988, the uh, the presidency of Leslie Manigat was a famous Haitian politician, and he's best known as a professor, as a historian. Frank-Étienne would become Haiti's very first minister of culture, ministre de la culture. Frank-Étienne did not finish his term, but eventually resigned from the post. I would like to highlight some of his major works for you and then provide a brief description of those works. So I should say Frank Etienne begins to write poetry in the 1960s. In the 1960s, this is an important era in Haiti's politics and Haiti cultural movements because this is the era of Francois Duvalier. And those of you who are familiar with Haitian politics in the 1960s, Duvalier, the great dictator, would expel Haitian professionals, Haitian uh, Haitian intellectuals, and the middle class Haitian. Okay, those who will naturally the individuals who will counter his presidency or the works or the actions he was doing or his because Duvalier was a murderer. Okay, he had killed many people, but he expelled many Haitian intellectuals and professionals, and those individuals would find refuge in different countries, mainly the United States, especially New York, Canada, France, and of course, Miami and South Florida. So this is the context in which Franck-Étienne begins to express in himself poetically. Later on, he would produce Mur à rêver, ready to burst, which I do have the English translation here. Uh, Ready to Burst with Kayam, I'm sorry, Glover was able to translate for an English speaking world. And this was translated in 2014. Um, Edwidge, the great Haitian novelist, uh, award-winning novelist, Edwidge Dantika wrote, his work can speak to the most intellectual person in the society, as well as the most humble. It's a very generous kind of genius he has, one I can't imagine Haitian literature ever existing without. In the New York Times, this is, I'm reading from the back cover here of the Ready to Burst, Mur à crever. This is his debut novel, his first novel, which he published in 1968. It's a politically charged novel and about the Duvalier regime or the cultural life, the lived experiences of the Haitian people during that time. Anyway, so the New York Times says eccentric, abstract, a spiritualist who rejects realism and embraces disorder. And chaos, he finds order. And the great Haitian novelist Danny Lafourrière, the Canadian, Haitian Canadian writer, writes, Frankétienne never stops being an artist. This energy is that inhabits his being, it never leaves him. Interestingly, Raphael Lucas would say the burst, right? The burst, mur à crever, already to burst, announces the eruption onto the scene of one of literature's great figures, a magician of techniques and feeling, and the tradition of a great family of writers like James Joyce, okay, Guimarães Rosa, and Osman Lenz. Um, Now, I want to spend again. I did mention I'm going to highlight some of his major works. Let me just name what those works are, and then we can go back and provide a, a brief summary. So, I would argue that there are 3 to 4 major works of Frank Etienne that everybody should read. As I used to tell my students, you should read this novel, you should read this poetry before you die. I would tell students, for example, you need to read Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman before you die, or I would say you need to read James Joyce's Ulysses before you die, or Jacques Romain's novel Masters of the Dew before you die. These are like 3 to 4 major works produced by Frankétienne that I believe everybody should read. And I mentioned Mur à crever, which he published in 1968. And then it was, and this book was republished in 2004. Then Ultra Vocal. I have a copy of Ultra Vocal here, but somewhat I I was looking for it in my library. I couldn't find it. But this is the French. I have the French original of Nuit à crever, and you see here on the back, this is the a young Frank Etienne. Okay, so this was produced by Edition Mémoire. Now, interestingly, um, I don't know what happened with the front cover, but but it's actually yeah. So the English translation, and then the second, Ultra Vocal or Ultra Vocal was produced and published in 1972, only 4 years after the publication of Murat Crevé, and it was republished in 2004. Then Jean Chrétien, Frank Etienne, I'm sorry, I said Jean, Frankétienne. Frankétienne, major landmark, really landmark work is Des Affaires, as I introduced this book to you uh, later. This book was published in 1975, and then another edition came out in 2002. Now, Mia Creve, Ready to Burst, okay? The novel, it's a critical book on the culture and political landscape of Haiti. Again, as I mentioned before, this novel was written in the time of the Duvalier regime. I'm referring to the father, Jean-Claude Duvalier, who was a famous Haitian anthropologist who turned himself, who developed an interest in politics, and he would become Haiti's most brutal dictator. So this is the novel that brought Frankétienne uh, to, I would say, um, to give them an international recognition, I would argue, or some critical attention. And this novel again uh, is about the exile of Haitians who were forced to leave the country under the Duvalier. For Haitians, they were, driven out of the Bahamas, and on the boat, they were returning home. And then, and those Haitians threw themselves into the water. They surrendered to the shark of the Caribbean Sea rather than what facing the wrath, the anger of the Duvalier regime. So they rather died in the sea than to face the brutality of the Duvalier regime. And ultra vocal, again, this is a work, as Aslan described, I believe, is the vertigo of endless wandering without purpose of endpoint. So, in other words, this is a spiritualist work, okay? A literary movement that claims to create order out of chaos. Okay, so it's a text without purpose, no endpoint. So the land, definitely a reference to the Haiti, to Haiti's landscape, is inhabited by the major evil. Okay, not only that evil has had a major impact on Haitian families, but he also transformed the lives, the lived experiences of Haitian children, which led to a massive exodus, right? A massive exodus where people would take the risk to explore the unknown, the uncertainty, and in foreign lands like the United States, Canada, or France. Um, but what's interesting about ultra vocal, this is where really you encounter um, an artist at work. He has to do with Frankétienne's literary brilliance. The way he he plays with language, the way he plays with the French language. It's a massive work of 415 uh, page, maybe in the first edition. But my the Yeah, my edition has a little bit more, I think, because follows by some commentaries and then a preface. I believe I have the 2004 edition. Now, um, the 2004 edition was reissued by Parisian publishing company. Uh, Again, it was well received in France and across the board. Okay. Um, Commentaries from Le Figaro, par exemple, Le Monde, also Lire l'Humanité, uh, okay, about the book. Were written about the book. Again, Désafi. I'm going to spend sometimes I'm going to provide a brief summary about the Désafi, and I'm going to come back um, to talk about Désafi. I'm going to share some text, read actually some text from the novel itself for you. So again, Désafi means cock, uh, cockfight or cockfight in Haitian Creole or gaguerre, right? It's a cultural, it has to do with popular culture. Okay, cockfighting in Haitian. So Désafi is set in Haiti and it centers around a voodoo priest by the name of Saint Hill who is terrorizing the village of Boisneuf, and he enslaves many residents by turning them into zombie again. Now, uh, and as Frankétienne, as a master literary uh, artist, he likes to use metaphors. Okay, now I want you to understand, readers, do not take this literally, okay? Okay, the idea of zombie, okay? The book ends when the zombies wake up, okay? And while the populace into overthrown Sentinel, wiping him into pieces. Maybe that should give you an indication of the political implications or political influences of Desafi. Okay, but again, I'm going to come back to this novel uh, um, because I have a lot to say about this novel. But I do want to spend some time talking about some works in the English language, okay, on Frankétienne. Again, I just want to comment on some English works, some that that comment on Frank-Étienne's work. So I'm going to mention 3 to 4 works. Actually, one of them is in French, an important, an extraordinary work in French. But I'll do three in English and one in French. I want to talk briefly, just short commentaries, not long, maybe 1 or 2 sentences about um, Rachel Douglas's work. It's called Frankétienne and Rewriting, a Work in Progress. Um, Again, this is a major study of the author's rewritten versions of some of his major works, including Desafi. Okay. What's interesting about Frank-Étienne's literary traditions and or literary uh, habits, Frank-Étienne likes to rewrite his works. This is interesting. So in 2009, Rachel Douglas publishes this monograph. It's about 195 pages. It's an important, a major work, okay, in the English language about, not only the reasons or the goals of purposes that have led Frankétienne to rewrite uh some of the earliest versions of his works, but Rachel Douglas was able to do some comparison. It compares not only the literary expression used in previous works, but the stylistics expressions that that are compared in both versions. Okay, those of you who are interested in Frankétienne's work should explore that work. There's also an important, another important, actually was a special issue in of the Journal of Haitian Studies, published in the spring semester 2008 on Frankétienne, and it was edited by the great Haitian literary critic and literary scholar Jean Jonassin. And I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about Jean Jonassin's work also. Another work that I want to talk about is Kaima L. Glover, uh, Haiti Unbound, a spiralist challenge to the postcolonial canon. So let me, hopefully people can see it. Uh, Haiti Unbound was published in 2010 by the Liverpool University Press. It's about 260 pages. So what Dr. Glover tries to do in this important work was to provide a literary analysis and commentary on the emergence of spiralism as an important Caribbean and literary movement. So the the author analyzes the spiralist novels by Jean-Claude Fignolet, René Philoctet, and she also gives attention, of course, to one of the co-founders of the movement, uh, Frankétienne. So highlight Frankétienne fiction as well the works of these two contemporaries, as I mentioned, Fignolet and Philoctet. Now, this is an important work, which um, which Glover sees as a challenge to post-colonial canon. This is important because this is a work that anticipates uh, post-colonial literature, but also go beyond. It goes beyond post-colonial uh, literature. Now, I several years ago, I had the pleasure, I think when this book came out this same year, 2010, I had the pleasure to write a review for the Caribbean Literary Journal. Also, Ashley Charles wrote a critical analysis of the novel about the same year of the book on this same year. Um, Now, I'm going to share with you something I have written about spiritualism um, in my actually in a bio that I published on Philoctet. for a dictionary series that was edited by Henry Louis Gates. So I wrote several literary bios on on some Haitian writers, including, René Philoctet, I believe Frankétienne, um, um, the what's his name? I don't remember the guy's name. Oh my gosh, can't believe the name just escaped me. But it will come. He's a major Haitian writer, sociologist. Okay. Oh, yes, Linek Ubon. Okay. So what I would say is, let me read briefly what I've written about the movement. So in 1965, along with, you know, with the prominent wider public intellectuals, yeah, Frankétienne, and Jean-Claude Fignolet Philoctet, they founded the literary movement called spiralism. Uh, spiritualism, I describe it as a philosophical and aesthetic concept that would radically reorient and shape the literary form and expressions of Haitian poetry and novelists and fiction and the contours of Haitian literature for the remaining part of the 20th century, even 21st century. The spiritualists, right? This is what they claim. They claim that the world is a dynamic and open-ended space. And the human experience is full of contingency. It's interesting, as I was writing this, as a person who was trained in theological and religious studies, this is how not only open theism process theology conceive themselves, not the world, right? The world is an open-ended space. The future is open. So the human experience is full of contingency. God too experiences the world with humanity. Anyways, from this spiritualist tradition, it is believed that chaotic moments are somewhat manageable and redeemable. Okay, so the world is redeemable despite of the dilemmas, the predicaments we as human beings experience on a daily basis. That includes war, that includes acts of terrorism, that includes acts of dictatorship. So according to the spiritualist narrative, the chaotic character of the world and human relations offers us a wide range of possibilities to learn, to grow, and to flourish. For example, in respect to the Haitian condition, Frankétienne observed, this is what Frankétienne says, uh, I am not afraid of chaos because chaos is the womb of light and life. What I don't like is non-management of chaos. So, and then he continues by saying, the reason why Haiti looks more chaotic is because of non-management. In other countries, it is managed better. That means chaos is managed better. Haiti, they should take as a reference for what could happen in the rest of the world. So hence, we should argue, or I have argued, spiritualism and is influenced both by Haiti's cultural and historical context and the life worlds and the life experiences of the Haitian people and beyond. I do want to comment next about Frankétienne international reputation. I'll do this briefly, okay? So, Frankétienne, in 2009, as we know, he was a candidate for the Nobel Prize in Literature. In 2010, he was named a commander of the Ordre des Arts et des Lettres by the French government. So this is France's highest honor for artists. So uh, Frank Etienne received that award. It was recognized by the French government in 2010. Um, Again, as a friend of Frank Etienne, as a Haitian literary scholar, I'm saddened that the Nobel Prize, a committee or team, group, whatever you want to call it, uh, has failed to give Frank Etienne the award, the Nobel Prize in Literature, before he dies 2 days ago. Uh, anyway, that yeah, so that same year, that means semi 2010, Frank Etienne was designated by UNESCO as the Artist for Peace. And he was recognized for his efforts to preserve Haitian culture and language. He also, in 2021, so 4 years ago, Franck Etienne received le Grand Prix de la Francophonie. Grand Prix de la Francophonie. Um, so the uh, when Franck Etienne was named uh, a UNESCO Artist for Peace in 2010, a commentator by the name of uh, Gerald Alexis or Gerald Alexis says, Etienne gestural style is apparent and his energetic enforced representations. So at this point in our conversation, I do want to share with you uh, um, some passages. Actually, before I share some passages in Frank Etienne novel, Creole novel, Des Affaires, I do want to make a reference to this book, Liliane Castelot, Anthologie Negro-Africaine, which she published in I believe 1992. Now, those of you who specialize in Francophone literature may have heard that name before, Liliane Castelou. She was the author of Black Writers in French, this monumental study. Okay, it's a reference work. I believe this was one of my Bibles in graduate school when I was writing my dissertation on three literary movements from two different continents. The Harlem Renaissance that took place in the United States and le mouvement indigéniste that took place in Haiti, and then the Negritude movement that took place in Paris. And this book was very helpful to me. But she's the one who, who also wrote this book, right? Anthologie Negro-Africaine. Okay. So Anthology of Black Africans. So 19 published in 1992. So in this book, she highlights, of course, this is in French, the work of um, uh, Franck Etienne. She writes, éminemment créateur, le style de Franck Etienne, créateur dans le vocabulaire bourré de néologismes évocateurs, créateur d'un genre littéraire entre le roman et la poésie, où l'un se mêle à l'autre inextricablement et culminant sur la ligne frontière sur 200 pages. Then she comments on, actually, she provides an excerpt from Les Affres d'un défi. Les Affres d'un défi is actually the French recreation. Uh, the French recreation of Frankétienne's masterly Creole novel des Affaires. It's called Les Havres d'un Défi, which she published in 1979. So let me just share with you the first maybe the first two paragraphs from text. Quel censure nous suce le sang sans éveiller le moindre soupçon? Quel termite ronge nos rêves? Le soleil s'étend par-delà une efflorescence de nuages, portant ainsi des poules idiotes à jucher sur des branches en plein jour. Now, I want to share with you. Uh, I'm sorry, I dropped uh, some sticky notes here. I want to share with you first an excerpt, okay, from Desafi. That's in Creole. I'm gonna read the Creole version followed by the English translation. So this is found from this book, Open Gate, an anthology of Haitian Creole poetry. This book was edited by Paul Larac and Jack Hirschman. So he includes some of the most important poems in the Creole language. So this is written again. This excerpt is taken from the novel Des Affaires, but this is sounds it is poetic, okay, and Creole. Then so I'll read the first paragraph, then followed by the translation. Then I'll do another one. Nan desafi, yo rache koupe lang jol al lele, parol klore lang goj nou, lan domi long, yun la me rat mode souffle. Zotey nou dwet nou, pou bouch nou, tet mogriyen nan deye pot, yo moulin krasé zo, yo moulin krasé zo nou, miyet moso, yo craché l'anmen nou. Combien raison la men kembe, combien raison la men kembe, songe demain. Nan la couplet-il, nous tendez toute qualité son. As you can see, some of those of you who know Creole, these are some of the old Creole words. Okay, they're not easy. Okay, bon son ak mauvais son département, moment musique frappé, n'oubliez fait triaille. Soufflant chou, leve chita, di gade en haut, di gade en bas, tellement li gratte, kol li bat boussole. Mani get pa point tout le jour, so piti mi sans cadeau. Parle non plus, pacifi pour joindre secret la vie. Si l'idée nous ak rêve nous, ta vle mourir, si courage nous ap choule, faut que nous apprendre voyer bois en bas la main, n'a soufflé pi loin. Let me this is from a cockfight marathon. So let me read the English translation for it because this is a bilingual text, okay? The Creole is on this side and the English is on the other side. The tear Alice's tongue out, nails speech to our throats. Along the length of sleep, an army of rats blows and bites our toes, our ears, our fingers, our lips. Death's head grins behind the door. They grind our bones into bits. They spit into our hands. How many reasons does the poem hold? Remember tomorrow. In the courtyard of yes, we hear all kinds of sounds, good sounds and discordant ones. The moment the music hits, we forget to sort them out. Soflenshu sits up, looks down. He scratches so much his body's covered with bumps. Schemes don't worry every day on the abandoned child. Neither is speaking enough to reveal life's secret. If our dreams and ideas should want to die, if our courage is to kiss ass, we would better learn to breaststroke underwater. We'll rest later on. As you can see, this is a political commentary, okay, on the political situation of the day. And the writer is using metaphors to explain those dynamics in the Haitian culture. Anyway, let me read the next paragraph in Creole, followed by the English translation. Manger ap tou fe sou di fe. Yo koupe nou koutje. Apeti ferme lantrip. Boase l'estomak la al danse miel. Youn, youn jardin pat mem pep rev nou. La valas pou neye velon bout pourri. Nou vare sou l'ombraj nou, mémoire nous pas de croix, mémoire nous pas de clous, mémoire nous crucifiés. Plot chene ma konen lan branche bois. Nous pan nous panko ouais lumière papillon posé soufflet. Dans a route nous bite sous chou bois l'enfer noir. The food is simmering on the fire. They slit their eyes at us. Appetite locked in the gut stirs the stomach to dance and the skull's marrow. A garden of open hands peoples our dream. The flood is for drowning the worm of the rowdy navel. We attack our shadows, our memories smeared with crosses, our memories stored with nails, our memories crucified. A ball of caterpillars is tangled on a tree branch. We haven't seen the light of butterflies resting on flowers yet. From time to time, we stumble on stumps in the dark. In the last three uh, lines I would read for you, nuit la pues, nuit la conries, mantou espoir nous serré, l'enfant que nous, yon la laine grimel ak balize deye mon, li fouke yon tout noaj sans ganson. Chaque soir, nous loyens étoiles. The night is thick The night is tough, but still our hope is kept safe in the depth of our hearts. A high yellow moon is lying behind the hill. It grabs a tuft of naked, trouserless cloud. Each evening we eye the stars. You see, this is very important. This is what any good writer would do. So the writer here, Frankétienne, is reflecting on the Haitian dilemma under the Duvalier, the Haitian condition. He says they slit their eyes at us, right? Appetite lacked in the guts stirs the stomach. We attack our shadows, our memories smeared with crosses, our memories stored with nails, our memories crucified. So this is very important. I have a friend of mine was working on a book on the memories, the people's memories, um, in the time of Duvalier. But you see how this poem from this text ends with hope. Although the night is thick, the night is tough, but still our hope is kept safe in the depth of our hearts. And this is the hope. A high yellow moon is rising behind the hill. You can see it, right? He grabs a tuft of naked, trouserless cloud. Each evening we eye the stars. I hope you enjoy this short reading. And I also want to read some. Now I'm going to share with you some excerpts from the English text translation. Uh, which, when I was reviewing this book, I was writing a review for a journal, but these are some of the passages really that grabbed my attention. So I'm just going to read maybe with few or no commentaries at all. This is from page 7. A bunch of dreams are clogging up our brains. Bundles of ideas are blinking inside our head as we try to decide on which foot we should dance. We don't clear the land, we turn the key, the reeds grow, the owl flies away. And then on uh page 8, we stick our forefingers into the crack of a lightning bolt. We get wounded to the bone. You see, this is explaining the condition, the living condition on the people, this of the people. We They cheat us with our eyes wide open. And then on page 9, uh, the writer writes, we sit down, we stand up, we lie down, we crouch like frogs, we curl up. No one has told us yet on which foot we should dance. We talk to ourselves during the day, we talk to ourselves at night, we talk nonsense. Then we shout our mouth. This is an atmosphere of rage, of more, almost a very depressive, right? At climate, um, the situation in which the political situation the people were living in, okay? Which describe, I wanted to say, we describe the political uh, situation the people were living in. And the author continues, several days go by. We sit around, haggard and passive, jaws resting on hands. Our skins are raw, re-wounded to our bones. And then I want to share a few more passages with you. We've been searching for a long time. When we make love, we shake like tree leaves. Our word, one word uttered on the pillow in the dark, and we tremble to our very marrow. We tremble to our very roots. And finally, on page 170, uh, actually, page 118, 118. Here it is. Our dreams have rings. We shout for help. The owl's shadow slip away. The cheers now go to the other side. Who's devoured the tiger's cub? The plates are turned over. Who's had any beans to eat? Now, it's good to note on page 174, this is a commentary because uh, Jean Jonassin, I mentioned Jean Jonassin's work before. Um, Jean Jonassin's work on Frankétienne. Uh, maybe I have not. I meant to mention it. I'm sorry if I did not. But anyway, before I share this note, let me say this. So Jean Jonassin produced Tipo Topo Poétique sur Francotienne in 2008. This is a collection of critical essays and other texts on, on polymath denovation letters of Etienne. And so Jean Jonassin brought together a group of writers to analyze those two major works that I mentioned to you, including another one. I mentioned Mur à crever, 1968, Ultra Vocal, 1972, and of course, Des Affaires, 1975. Les Affres d'un défi, that's the French translation, recreation of the novel, which was published in 1999, and Les Métamorphoses de l'oiseau schizophone in 1993. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I totally forgot when I was mentioning some works on Frankétienne. But anyway, so I just want to share with you uh, to bring this conversation to a close, homage to Frankétienne. I just want to bring a comment, a remark Jean Jonassin wrote in the afterword of the English translation of this Afi. I think it's very important for us to understand the literary context also with this book uh, was born, in which this book was brought forth. Okay, so Jonathan wrote, in summary, it is worth recalling that Desafi was written and published in a national context of great cultural effervescence both in Haiti and the Haitian diaspora. The signs of this effervescence included the publication of Jean-Claude Charles' Négociation in 1972, René Philoctètre, Le Huitième Jour, 1973, René Despestre, Alléluia pour une femme Jardin, 1973, Jean-Jacques Honoraz, Enquête sur le développement, 1974, Raphaël Beroux and Pradel Pompilus, Histoire de la littérature haïtienne, illustré par le texte, Volume 1 and Volume 2, published in 1972. Alain, I'm sorry, Ventolila, Petit dictionnaire créole français, dictionnaire élémentaire créole haïtien, français 1976, and Hubert de Roncerailles projet expérimental sur le bilinguisme créole-français au niveau de l'enseignement primaire en Haïti, 1976. And he also remarks the productions of the theater troupe Corridor in New York from 1970, 1969 onward that involved such writers and actors as Sisto Cavey, Georges Caterafi, Jacques Chaplier, and Joseph Allage were of similar cultural significance. Finally, a number of periodicals contributed enormously as well to the cultural ferment of the times, amongst them the journal Nouvelle Optique in Quebec from 1971 to 1973, the Reborn Weekly Le Petit Samedi Soir in Port-au-Prince, 1972, and the new launch journal Des Rives in Montreal, 1975, which published excerpts from Frankétienne Ultra Vocal and its inaugural issue, a first for its home-based writer. I wanted to really to share this with you and then to bring this to a close. I really appreciate, I know this is a long conversation, but I think it's worth it to for us to reflect on Frankétienne's literary, I mean, enormous achievement, you know. Uh, and to bring this to a close, I should mention an important play Frankétienne wrote several years ago, uh, uh, Pelentet, or in English is The News. Aslan Charles was, I mean, translated this in spring 2000. Well, an excerpt, right, was came out of a journal of literary translation in spring 2003, translated by Aslan Charles. Many of you know Aslan Charles as the translator of Joseph Antinous Fieldman's monumental work, The Equality of the Human Races. So, uh, Palented, uh, it's a play written by Frankétienne. Simply means head trap, okay? It's about two Haitian immigrants in New York, and it was staged at the New York Immigrants Theater Festival in 2001. Um, Again, I could comment on not only on the works of Frankétienne that have been translated in Spanish, also in Portuguese, and several of his Creole works that we have already mentioned. Another play, Fuki Fura, which in 2000, which includes some 14 texts. I already mentioned Palentet. So I want to conclude this. Again, I do not comment of his pen uh, of his of his of his uh, paints, right? And other things I did not comment. Is many of his plays. But I do want to bring this to a close. Yeah, with a statement uh, from Aslet Charles. From Aslet Charles. Aslet Charles is an expert on Frankétienne, just like Jean Jonas was devoted really uh, great part of his work, literary productions, to examine and analyzing the amazing work of Frankétienne. But here it is from Ashley Charles. When all is said and done, Frankétienne's towering place in literary history will be due to his role as a paradigm shifting artist of the word responsible for the, listen to this, for the nationalization of Haitian literature, for eliminating the distance between the language of the national literature and the social, cultural, and historical reality it translates, for demystifying the idealized tongue of the French in this former colony and valorizing the language of the people of Haiti. And finally, for articulating, reinventing, and reinterpreting the myth of its society and culture while offering an inspiring critique of its ethos. In this regard, Frankétienne is too Haitian literature and the Creole language as Dante was to Italian literature and the Italian lingua. Again, Frankétienne has left many children. He has blessed many people with his work. Earth, his legacy will remain. Okay, friends, this is Dr. Lou for Haiti Then and Now.